Hello there. Psalm 19 begins like this. The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands. Day after day they pour forth speech. Night after night they display knowledge. There is no speech or language where their voice is not heard. Their voice goes out into all the earth, their words to the ends of the world. I wonder, when you look at the created world and the cosmos round it, do you ever glimpse a faint watermark of complicated mathematical equations? No? Well, I suspected not, but never mind. Let me show you two things which I find delightful. First, a rectangle. Rectangles can be long and narrow or almost square. But the example I have in mind is a special case on which you can do a particular trick. Remove the largest square that you can from this rectangle, and you're left with a smaller rectangle with the same proportions. In other words, again you can take off the largest square and be left with another rectangle with the same properties, and so on. The ratio of the sides is around 8:5. And this ratio has often been thought of as pleasing to the eye. It was used in some ancient Greek architecture, and closer to home, if you've ever used a stack of 8x5 index cards, it's there too. But look again at the initial rectangle with the squares left in place and a nice smooth curve drawn through each of those squares in turn. If it's drawn carefully enough, it's a pleasing curve, but it's not a mathematician's invention. There are seashells whose shapes recognisably reflect this curve. Not only that, there are plants whose leaves grow in spiral patterns which also display this kind of curve. With both the plants and the shells, God was there first. My second example is a circle. And I'm sure you'll remember from school that the most fundamental number to do with circles is pi. The ratio between the length round the edge and the straight line distance across the middle, from one side to the other through the centre. Circumference to diameter. No matter what size your circle, the value of pi is constant. If you know the diameter and you want to know the circumference, you multiply by pi. The trouble is, no one knows the exact value of pi. It's a never-ending decimal number. Even worse, it never settles down to a nice repeating pattern. It just goes on and on forever. Maybe they told you at school that pi is 22/7 or 3.14, but they're only both rough approximations. So if this number is so important, can we ever get to know it or get an approximation close enough for what we need, maybe to make some precise scientific machine? Astonishingly though, there are ways to calculate pi. Here's one. It's recognised as a fairly poor method because it's inaccurate and takes a long time getting really close to pi, though it does keep getting closer. Anyway, as to the calculation, it's based on odd-numbered fractions. Start with 1, subtract a third, add a fifth, subtract a seventh, add a ninth, subtract an 11th, and so on for as long as you can be bothered to keep going. For a good approximation, you do have to work with a huge number of fractions, but when you've done that calculation, multiply the answer by 4, and that's your approximation to pi. And that's all been done with some fairly basic arithmetic and fractions. And as I said, there are quicker, although more complicated, calculations for close approximations to pi. But I still find it curious, astonishing even, that there are little things like this within the maths which humans use to describe the universe, the movements of stars and planets, and so on. It's like God has left us elegant fingerprints to find, which should serve to remind us that in all the complexity we see around us, and not least in the immense problems facing us just now, He understands. He designed and made this universe. He's sustained it ever since, and He knows all its workings. And He's the one who invites us to call Him Father. Isn't that comforting? Let's close with a paraphrase of those verses from Psalm 19, offered in praise to God. Father, your creation is bursting with signs of your greatness, your inventiveness, your faithfulness. In every part of the cosmos, day and night, countless things bear witness to your goodness and creativity. They don't shout loud, so sometimes we miss them, but they're there for anyone to see. Help us to be attuned to the way creation points to you as a reliable and righteous God, and so make us better able to trust that this world, this universe, is in safe hands. Amen. Until next time, take care and trust God.